Let me know what's good on your end.
I think we are
Okay,
all
great. You
good.
can see our mugs and shit. All
Yes.
right, sweet, sweet. Let's get cracking, man. Welcome everyone. Today we are going to give our recap and breakdown of episode 3 of The Last of Us season 2. We are the Winter Hill Warriors. I am Chenny Britt, and this is my boy Damon. And we're just gonna do what we do normally, which is we just go scene by scene, and I'll usually give kind of the recap, give my take, and then Damon gives some analysis. And if you're watching this, whether it's on replay or if you're in the live chat right now, definitely feel free to jump in and give commentary and give your thoughts and opinions. We love to hear from y'all. But otherwise, let's just get cracking. Let's go right into it. We're just gonna break this down. If you're used to what we do, you know how this already goes. If you're new here, like I said, we kind of just go through scene by scene, give a recap, and if you think we missed anything or whatever, just let us know. But with that being said, let's get going. So we ended last episode right with the murder of Joel. Abby murders Joel. She then and she does it in front of Ellie, and then her and the rest of her little militia group go back to Seattle, and at the same time the city of Jackson, Wyoming got attacked ruthlessly. So we're kind of like, we open up this episode with the aftermath of all of that, right? We see Joel's dead body. We see the city that's like still kind of on fire. And the survivors in Jackson, which include Tommy and Maria, are attending to all the wounded. Tommy is looking at the dead bodies, including the body of Joel, and he is just heartbroken and devastated. We also see kind of, let me see if they show the Ellie stuff. Yeah, so Ellie has suffered, she got kicked really hard in the stomach by Manny from the militia group. So she suffered some serious injuries and she has to be hospitalized. But in between her being sent to the hospital, she's waking up from shock and remembering what happened to Joel, and she's like screaming and freaking out and stuff like that. So she's suffering from a lot of PTSD. This is kind of what the scene opens with, but we know that Ellie has now been put out of commission and she is in the hospital. Any thoughts on just that initial, like right after the attack scene?
It's pretty raw stuff. They really drop us off exactly where you would think. I mean, Tommy and Joel have such a complicated relationship that you knew he was going to take it pretty rough. I mean, what does he say? Say hi to Sarah for me or give Sarah my love. Like, man, that kind of hits, especially given the fact that Joel was close with Tommy's kid. So that was tough to watch. And then, the fallout from what went down in Ellie's point of view, Joel is really the only constant she's known. If you think about her life to this point, so this is going to be a huge, huge loss of stability, and she's probably going to almost think it's like a dream. I think we find out later she's been in the hospital for almost 3 months, which is a crazy amount of time to have to stay in a hospital to recover from, you know, wounds suffered, but like she didn't get shot or anything. So she really hasn't been around anybody for a long, long time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The 3 months is fucking crazy. All right, let's jump ahead and so we cut to 3 months later. 3 months later, they've rebuilt most of the city. Things are back to normal. They haven't suffered another attack in that span. It looks like it's like early spring, would you say? Maybe like the end
Yeah.
of winter, the beginning of spring. And
Yep.
we see Tommy's kind of leading the rebuilding efforts along with Jesse, and spirits in the town seem to be okay. So we go to the hospital, and Ellie is getting ready to be discharged. So she has now recovered from her wounds, and Ellie's kind of just like she's processing everything right now. And at this time, Gail actually pulls up to talk to Ellie. I think all Gail really talks to Ellie about is just she's just kind of checking in on Ellie's mental health, right? Is that fair to say? That's basically what this whole pull up is. Gail's just basically like, hey, how are you holding up? Obviously, you've been in the hospital for 3 months. Joel, who was your father figure, was murdered. And, the last time you guys interacted, you guys got into this argument at the dance. And, Gail's kind of doing her old therapist thing. And Ellie's like, yeah, obviously I regret how I spent my last moments with Joel. I wish we didn't get into that fight. But it is what it is. I still care about him. And Gail is trying to fish for information. She's still trying to probe and kind of see what it is that caused this initial rift between Joel and Ellie. We know that it's because Joel went on that rampage at the end of season 1 and killed all those fireflies. But Ellie still doesn't let Gail know what the truth is. She's just like, yeah, basically don't worry about it. We're good. So Ellie kind of finishes her therapy session and she heads back home. And this part's kind of tough because now she goes back home and it's completely empty. Joel is not there. So we kind of get these scenes where she's just walking around the house and looking at all the stuff that she probably didn't really care about before, but now all this shit just reminds her of Joel. I think she goes into his room, finds his old watch that Tommy ended up saving, and she also finds his pistol. So she holsters his pistol as kind of one of the last things she can remember about him. She's kind of looking at his clothes, kind of remembering just what he used to wear, kind of the smell and all of that stuff, and she breaks down in tears because it's she misses him, and this is kind of the first moment it really hits her when she goes back home and she's expecting him to kind of be there, but she's not there. He's not there anymore. What did you think about that?
Yeah, super complex. And I think that there's not many more macho ways for someone to remember you than, oh, look at his flannels, his guns, man, his guitar.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good legacy for Joel to leave on. At the same time, this is within Bella's Emmy reel. When they submit everything for the awards, this part is definitely going to be in it. Really good sell on the crying. I totally believe that this kid just lost a father figure the way that it goes down. Gail's whole idea beforehand, like you were talking about, it is just a sanity check because she knows that Joel and Ellie very close. Sometimes when you're very close, you get codependency for good reason because it's a pretty cold world out there where they are now. But they have a lot of similar traits because of that. She couldn't get much out of Joel in that episode 1 interview. She can't get much out of Ellie here, and I don't think she's super surprised about it. She signs off on it, but there's still a lot going down here. So, yeah.
So at this moment, when Ellie is crying, she's interrupted by Dina pulling up. So Dina, we know from last episode, she was having some initial frostbite, but she gets saved, and she didn't take as much damage overall as Ellie did. So she was discharged from the hospital way earlier than Ellie. So she's there. It's kind of awkward because, they both just lost Joel, and Dina cared a lot about Joel as well. Dina even says, look, I love Joel as well. So it's sad for both of them, and they're kind of not saying they had an issue with their friendship, but it's kind of oh, they're kind of getting reacquainted again. So there's that. Dina then has a confession. So this is all off screen, but it's said that while Ellie was in the hospital and Dina was visiting her, Dina explicitly said that she didn't know anything about any of the people who attacked Joel. But it turns out that Dina was lying, and she was lying to Ellie on purpose because she didn't want to upset Ellie while she was in a hospital, and she didn't want Ellie to do anything rash. But now that Ellie is fully recovered, Dina comes clean and says, look, I know a decent amount about them. I know that they're all holed up in Seattle. I know that they all represent this militia group. There's this wolf emblem, and there's the letters WLF, and I also know some of their names. So she says, look, I know that the darker skinned guy, the Latino guy, his name is Manny. I know Owen is the white guy. I know there's a girl named Nora, but I don't know if it's the bald girl or the other girl, but one of the girls' names is Nora. And most importantly, the girl who killed Joel, her name is Abby. So now Dina has all this intel. It's clear that she's probably going to roll with Ellie to go hunt these motherfuckers down. But it's not that simple yet because all of this stuff has to be sanctioned. So then Ellie and Dina talk to Tommy. Ellie's obviously talking to Tommy and being like, look, we have information on where these guys are at. Let's go fucking get them. Let's go get revenge. Let's go get these guys. Tommy obviously is way more rational about it. He's like, look, we just got attacked 3 months ago. Obviously, I'm heartbroken as well about Joel's death, but we got to rebuild what we have here. We can't just do something so rash and send a party out there when we're still trying to rebuild the city. We don't have a lot of resources. And Ellie's fucking pissed. She's like, if it was you, Joel would rescue you. And Tommy's like, I get that. But at the end of the day, Tommy has a kid. Tommy has a family. So he can't just be crazy about it. And he tells Ellie, look, I know that Joel would have rescued me. And it hurts me a lot as well. He also punishes Dina. He says, Dina, you got rendering detail for a month for withholding that type of information for me. But Tommy does say, like, look, there's a council meeting that's going to happen tomorrow where they're going to vote on whether they send out a team to go avenge Joel. I'm going to take a break here because I think the next scene we cut to is this weird, like, almost Assassin's Creed, like, religious cult that's going on. So I'm just going to pause here for any thoughts that you have.
I mean, it's pretty clear that they're going with Tommy as the voice of reason this season with Ellie. We saw it in episode 1. We see it again here. He's saying pump the brakes, which is a little ironic considering how Tommy started off in the show as we knew him. He was like the crazy brother, who would have been the fun uncle for Sarah if that was still a thing. So I think it's interesting the way they've taken that. There is the idea of wanting revenge, right? Naturally, we all want revenge when bad things happen. But before we do things like that, you got to let yourself heal. You have to acknowledge what's going on to be able to approach it in a way that's going to be constructive, right? Go visit Joel's grave, like take some time to process. But it's clear that Ellie has a clock ticking in her head, and for good reason. If you give them too much room, if you give them too much runway, they could get anywhere. They're going to Seattle, but they're going to get well into their defenses and they're going to be well allied if you let too much time pass before everything goes down, right? So it's almost like the shoe is now on the other foot, where instead of Abby in episode 1, like, oh, we got to chase down Joel, we got to chase down the handsome guy with the scar who offed my dad, we have to chase the crazy girl with a braid who butchered my father figure from Ellie's point of view. So now she's going to have the disadvantage where she's got to go onto somebody else's home turf. No longer is it protect the castle. Now it's like, get in and out in probably a short amount of time and take out who you can take out, like kind of like how you mentioned an Assassin's Creed episode. And shout out to the show for being realistic about the Nora mix-up, because last time we streamed, you were like, I think this one's Nora. Like, right. Dina and you were on the same vibe, which I think is realistic, honestly.
Right. It's like, I had no fucking clue. All right. So then we get this crazy cutaway, right? Right outside of Seattle, we see this like fucking almost like religious group of rangers / clerics or whatever. They're all dressed in cloaks. They got arrows, bow and arrows. So it's weird because we know we're in the 2020s, but these guys are like fresh out of, the 1600s. And they're all dressed like Game of Thrones characters. And they all got these scars along their cheeks, like these like thin knife scars that seem like they were made on purpose. We got this guy who's talking to, he seems like the leader of this little group. He's talking to this girl, this young girl who's asking just like questions like, where are we going? We don't know where they're going, but it seems like they're heading away from Seattle. This part I didn't actually know. Are they heading towards Seattle or away from Seattle? That part I didn't really know, but this guy is basically talking about distance. He's like, yeah, let's just get some distance, where it's going to be safe. The girl asks about this prophet, who seems like a woman figure that has now been dead for 10 years. And she's like, yeah, what's going on with the prophet? And the guy's like, yeah, the prophet is she's been dead for 10 years, but she kind of gives us guidance. And prophets are people who, they're not necessarily like these superhero figures, but they're people who can see things that other people can't see, right? And during this time, the girl's like, hey, can I get the hammer? It'll make her feel more safe. He's like, cool. While this goes down, they hear some whistling warning calls, and immediately there's a full-out panic, and he picks up the girl, and all of them scramble and run away. I'm going to pause here, Damon. What the fuck was going on with that scene, bro?
It was super cool because you get another iteration of how an alternate society might develop in this way. Right? Like you said, they seem very religious, slightly more naturalistic, a little culty for sure. Like they have like Lord of the Rings elf cosplay gear, but also these Heath Ledger Joker scars, which is an odd thing to have on everyone, especially the kids. But I guess it shows belonging or unity. Like it's super tribal. Like in Mad Max, right? When Dementis has his crew and everybody's rolling in the same crew, they all share something, some unique trait, some unique style. In a way, a lot of these groups, like this looks like a group from Middle Ages, Assassin's Creed type deal. So it's kind of just all these factions that take these way different shapes. I thought it was kind of interesting.
Right. It's just like you gotta have guns in this. Like imagine taking out a clicker with a bow and arrow. That's crazy to me. Yeah, that was nuts to me. I didn't really know much about him, but neither of us have played the video game, so we don't really understand yet. But so okay, they get attacked. We don't know what's gonna happen yet. Let's jump ahead. So we see later on, we jump back to Jackson, and Ellie is actually doing a training session with Jesse, and Jesse's impressed by how well she's fighting for someone that just emerged from the hospital. And Ellie is like, well, actually, I was doing crunches when they weren't looking in the hospital. So Ellie's in better shape than one would expect. And we actually find out that while this has been going on, Jesse has been promoted to being a member of the council. So he's young, he's like 23, 24, and he is advancing up the hierarchy within Jackson. And they're talking a little bit about tomorrow's council meeting, about whether they're going to send a squad out to avenge Joel. And Ellie's like, look, Jesse, are you going to back me? Because the council is going to vote on this. Can I count on your vote? Jesse says, yes, you can have my vote. But he does tell Ellie, look, you should think about what you want to say and write everything down, because you don't want to just kind of like go off the top of your head and you're going to sound too angry. You're going to really want to get your thoughts in order before you do this. Any thoughts on that before I jump to the council meeting?
This to me was like Rocky training in the woods to fight Ivan Drago after Apollo Creed got smoked. Only in nice little touch here with Jesse, who Jesse is looking
He is,
jacked, by the way, man. I don't know if they took time off between scenes, but it looks like he's put on 10 pounds of muscles, and he's definitely the right guy for the job.
Yeah, Jesse is looking jacked. All right. Jump over to the council meeting. The topic of today's council meeting is really about whether fucking Joel should be avenged or not. We see like throughout this meeting scene, we see a bunch of the faces in the crowd, and everyone looks like very broken, and they look like a victim, which is understandable. They just suffered a very, very traumatic attack. The town is still reeling. We got this one guy. I don't know what the fuck his name is, Damon, but he's too busy talking about corn. Now, I gotta say, the stuff that he was saying made sense to me, right? Like this guy was basically saying, look, corn grows very quickly, so we gotta focus on kind of getting more corn crops because it can feed us, right? So he's like really thinking about how to keep the city and the society going, but everyone else is focused on the topic at hand, which is, do we send out a squad to avenge Joel? So that brings us to a list of people, the guy's name is Scott. So anyways, that brings us to this girl, Rachel, who raises her hand, and she gets up and gives her opinion on the matter. And her opinion is, no, we shouldn't go avenge Joel because we just suffered a brutal attack, and she lost her sister that day, and she's saying now we want to send out 16 more of our best people. Like, we got to focus on rebuilding what we have here. The wall is barely mended, and if we send 16 people, there's no promise that they'll come back. So, look, if you're playing defense, Damon, this makes sense, right? Like, why would you send people out? You got to recover. You got to protect yourself. That is understandable. So she gives her condolences to Tommy and Ellie, but her vote is no. Now, none of their voices necessarily matter. Ultimately, it's going to be this council that votes, and I think there's 11 council members. Yeah, I think there's 11 council members. So it's the council that's going to vote, but the council hears everyone's pleas. So it's almost like a democracy, right, Damon? Like a republic in a way.
Yeah.
So Rachel gives her opinion. We see Seth kind of look pissed off this entire time. So this is going to be really interesting because we're going to bring this up. Next up is this Asian dude, Carlisle. He gets up and he kind of says the same thing. He's like, yeah, let's move on. No more revenge. We got to be the higher, we got to be the better people. We got to be the bigger party. Let's not go after revenge. Let's show them mercy, stuff like that. And basically he's like, let's puss out. And Seth just flips the fuck out and is like, fuck that, like, what the fuck are we talking about here? Now, it's super interesting because, Joel shoved Seth to the ground, right? And Seth had said some really bad things to Ellie and Dina. So one would think that Seth would be like, well, fuck Joel. Like, he got what's coming to him. But Seth, on the other hand, surprisingly, is like, you guys are a bunch of cowards. And he gets up and he gives a speech and he's like, look, they took one of ours. You guys are playing victim. You're acting like a bunch of victims. If they took one of ours and got away with it before, they'll do it again. They came into our house, they killed one of ours, and now we want to forgive. That is absolutely bitch-made shit. And it's a powerful speech. And Seth tells them to grow up and understand what the stakes are. And he says they're going to come back. And when they come back, they're going to be laughing because you guys are a bunch of cowards. So that's that. Then Ellie, it's time for Ellie to give her speech. Ellie has a pretty solid speech that's written, but once again, she's not the best at like delivering the speech with charisma. It kind of feels like she's going through the motions, but basically the point of Ellie's speech is that avenging Joel is less about revenge, and she frames it as more about justice, which was a good way to go at it. It's just that I think everyone in the town is too scared and too nervous to support this. So Ellie's just basically like, look, it's about accountability. It's about having each other's back, right? That's what bringing justice for Joel is going to entail. It means that if one of us gets hurt, I'll have your back and I'll fight for you, So it's a great angle that Ellie takes. It makes a lot of sense. And she tries to frame it as, look, I'm not really out for getting revenge. I just want us to send a message that we support each other and we're going to protect each other. And it's funny because the entire time while she's talking, I'm trying to find this scene, but when she first gets up to talk, it cuts to Jesse. And I think, I don't want to I want to be really careful. Found it. Jesse is nervous. You see Jesse scratching his arm because you can tell he really wants Ellie to give a good speech. He's rooting for Ellie to give a good speech and convince the rest of the council. So I thought that was pretty cool. Ellie finishes her speech and the council votes. Ultimately, the council votes against it, right? So I think it's 8 votes against, and let me see if I can find the exact part of it. Yep, the vote is 8-3 against. So my guess, Damon, is that the 3 people who voted for the mission was Jesse, Tommy, and Maria. Is that fair to say? Unless maybe it's like that other white lady. Maybe we'll find out later on.
I think almost like, are you guys kidding me?
Yeah. So that's that. Meeting's adjourned. Everyone but Dina, Ellie, and Seth are fucking pissed. What did you think about all that?
In a way, corny Scotty is like,
yeah. I'm good.
You all
keep
good?
going. I muted my mic for the
cold.
stream, but yeah, I forgot you can still hear me. Keep going.
Dude, you're battling.
I know, it's fucking bullshit.
No, I respect it, man. You're a soldier. So corny Scotty is like a microcosm of the town because he just wants to talk about how we bounce back, how we can stay away from the more violent things, and let's just focus on a lot of sense until you take Seth's point. We know that Abby and that squad are members of some organization. There's a wolf logo last episode be connected to. So if they ever run out of supplies, it's not that long to get from where they're at from Seattle over to Wyoming. It's not going to come take over. They know that there's a very impressive infrastructure already built because Abby's already scouted it out. So they can go ahead and just do that, depending on how high ranking Abby is in that organization. So that is a constant threat. So I like his point there. In a way, this is like a microcosm as well of what Ellie's doing in her own mind, right? It's like to be or not to be. Like, am I going to go get revenge or am I going to let it be? You kind of know what the answer is and you know what it has to be. But it's like certain people in the town are just the inhibitions, like almost the scaredness of what you're going after. I didn't get a sense that people were being super pragmatic as much as they were being very cautious, if that makes sense, given what just happened.
Yeah, that's a good point that you bring up too, which is Dina, when she is telling Ellie about what she knows, she mentions that I think it's Eugene, right? The late Eugene was who used to be part of the Fireflies, said that there have always been some small little militias that have fought back against Fedra, and there was one called the Washington Liberation Front, which is what WLF stands for. And Eugene always wondered why they didn't just all band together under the Fireflies and fight against Fedra. So that was always an interesting point, but Dina remembers this. So let's then jump ahead. Somehow in Jackson, they also have a baseball field, which I thought was pretty fucking sick.
Yeah.
So, you know, they got a little Little League game going. Gail is a big baseball fan, so she's kind of watching. And Tommy pulls up to go talk to Gail. Tommy's biggest concern is Ellie. He's like, look, I'm worried that Ellie is going to do something crazy, and I'm worried that, that she's reckless. Gail is basically like, yeah, she's definitely going to do something crazy. And I think they have a discussion about whether Ellie learned that recklessness from Joel. And I think Gail's basically like, you can't really blame Joel. People are just who they are, right? Like, I think her takeaway is, look, Ellie was always kind of predisposed to be like this, and she's going to do what she has to do. Sometimes you can't stop people. That's kind of the takeaway. Did you have any thoughts on that little conversation during baseball?
No, not Maria. Gail just approaches everything so calm, collected, and like, so it is, so it's going to be. And I think that just shines through here. Great character addition so far.
Yep. So then we jump over to Ellie immediately prepping to get the fuck out of there. And she is preparing to go solo to go hunt down Abby. So she preps Joel's pistol, all that. Dina knocks, and Dina's like, you think you're really going alone? I'm going to come with you. You haven't done any preparation. And so Dina kind of says, like, look, I got a whole plan. Dina has mapped out an entire route. She's like, look, we're gonna stay off the highways, avoid cities and settlements, and she has this trail that they're gonna follow, and that's how they're gonna approach Seattle. She also says they're gonna have some winter coats, bear spray, first aid kit, some minor provisions, all that stuff. So Dina has planned a lot of this stuff out, which is good. Ellie has saved Joel's pistol, and her plan with the pistol is to use it to kill Abby. So it's very symbolic, which is kind of funny. Now, they're only going to bring one horse, Shimmer, because they want to travel light. They don't want to have another animal to feed. And the biggest thing is Dina tells Ellie, like, look, you can't wear Converse on the road to Seattle. You got to actually bring boots. So there's that. Now, here's the thing. Dina tells Ellie, look, there's somebody else in on this mission. He's not going to go with us, but he's going to help us on this mission. And Ellie's immediate assumption is Jesse, and Dina's like, no, I didn't tell Jesse, aka Captain Wyoming. Dina's like, I love the man, but he's a little uptight. We'll meet by the old gate at the old East Gate by 3 a.m. Right, so 3 a.m. is when they're going to leave. So that's that. Dina is rolling with Ellie. I gotta say, Dina is so fucking hot. I just gotta say that. Anyways. So then we jump to 3 a.m. and they're getting ready to head out. It's actually Seth that's the one that is in on the plan, which is really funny. And Seth immediately tells Ellie trade because Seth's sniper rifle is way better than Ellie's. So Seth gives Ellie the upgrade. You could obviously tell, Damon, that if Seth was like even 10 years younger, he's going on this trip with them. You know what I mean? Like this guy, he's just aged out of all of this. So Seth is actually keeping watch right now of one of the gates, I think the East Gate. So Seth is going to let them out while he's keeping watch, and otherwise they wouldn't be able to sneak out. Seth also gives them, like, I think 2 weeks of of just like some supplies and stuff like that, and whatnot. So before he sends them off, he actually shakes hands with Ellie. Let me see if I can find that exact scene. Ah, fuck. Yep. So they shake hands, which is a symbolic moment because Ellie fucking hated him at first, and now it's like, hey, despite this guy's views and stuff like that, when it came down to it, he kind of had Joel's back. So with that being said, Dina and Ellie head off. What did you think about all that?
Yeah, he got a cool mini redemption arc. Every time there's any human kindness or empathy in this show, I get shocked because most people are pretty bleak and do a lot of sick shit on this show, as we saw last episode. Solo mission would have been a complete suicide mission, nearly impossible. The path that Dina came up with makes a ton of sense because every city is filled with either infected or a concentrated group of people who have already staked the territory out and are most likely incredibly hostile, like pretty goddamn hostile.
Yep.
Remember in Kansas City.
Yep.
Dina, in a way, is filling a Joel role more than I thought she would. Like her and Seth almost combined to make a Joel-esque contribution here. I wasn't really expecting that because you can see more and more why her and Jesse simply didn't work out. Like they say opposites attract, but it feels like that marriage would have ended pretty badly. Like Jesse doing workouts in the garage to blow off steam and Dina becoming some kind of a wine mom, constantly feeling like her husband is holding her back or something. Like it's almost like Ellie and Jesse are two sides of the same coin, and Dina's trying to figure out like which way she's going with it, which I think is interesting, and you see more of that later on in the episode.
Yeah. Also, another thing, as you were talking, that I forgot to mention is that Seth. Apparently, the reason why Seth isn't going isn't because he's old and banged up. It's because it's mainly just because he's banged up. So he mentions that he took some friendly fire on New Year's Day. So I think it was like, I don't think he's talking about Joel pushing him. I think he's talking about the actual defense of the infected, right? Like I think he took a stray bullet or something. So that's why. Otherwise, he'd be going with them, and they could definitely use this guy. So before they leave, as they're leaving, they actually pay a visit to the cemetery. Now, Tommy had mentioned it before. They buried most of the dead 10 miles away, which is smart because you don't want someone who's stumbling upon this cemetery to immediately know that there's like a city nearby. So they keep it distant on purpose. And this is where Ellie pays a visit to Joel and sees his tombstone. And I think she drops, coffee beans? She drops some coffee beans on the ground, like on his gravesite, which is symbolic. Was there any symbolism to the coffee, Damon? Am I missing anything on that?
I think it's just Joel. I think probably last season in season 1, maybe coffee on the path at some point. Like maybe he enjoyed it. That's what I'm guessing.
Right. I think there might have been some scene when they were camping, right, where they had like old ass coffee. I think I vaguely remember it being like episode 4 or something before they got to Kansas City. All right. With that being said, they head off. It's just Dina and Ellie, two young women. It's going to be an uphill battle for sure. Just those two and a horse. But you kind of see them trekking up to Seattle or east of Seattle, and we get this beautiful landscape shots. And they're kind of just shooting the shit the entire time, talking about random shit. And I think they're talking about like Guns N' Roses, Ozzy Osbourne, just like some bands. And so as they're talking, right, I think Dina asks Ellie about her first kill. And now we remember, I forget which episode this was. Was this like episode 8, Damon? Ellie's first kill was her best friend, right? Yeah. Who got bit in the mall out in Boston. So Ellie's like, that one was too fucked up. I don't want to talk about that. So instead, she talks about her second kill. I think the second kill was at that convenience store gas station. Was that the second kill? Or she talks about the second kill being the Kansas City kill where she got Joel got jumped by this kid and Ellie shot him. So I guess that was her second like innocent kill, or not innocent kill, but human kill. Whereas the infected kill was like the gas station. Anyways, they're just talking about that. And then Dina has really good instincts. So she looks in the sky and she's like, yeah, there's going to be a storm. So they end up setting up camp in this tent. A lot of sexual tension is going on because they're obviously sleeping together. And Dina's like, hey, by the way, obviously, like, I'm not gay or anything, but that kiss that we had, like, how would you rank that kiss that we had? And, by the way, like, you were high, I was drunk, so it doesn't mean anything. But how would you rate it? And Ellie's like, Ellie's being conservative, so she says 6 out of 10. Dina's like, fuck you. Like, it was definitely way better than a 6 out of 10. Just a lot of sexual tension here. So they wake up the next day. Let me see. Let's keep going where I can find it. Okay, no, that's it. So they just go to sleep that night. Any thoughts on that before I talk about the next scene? Just kind of them camping and trekking.
Yeah, I like the farewell scene from Ellie to Joel. I think there was like he like made her coffee and she didn't like it. She was like shitting on it or
Yeah,
something.
it tastes
But
like shit, right? That's what she was saying.
something like that. Yeah, there's a real chance this is the last time she ever sees his gravesite as well, because the mission to Seattle is dicey at best.
Right.
I thought it was interesting how the alphabetical band game with all this classic rock stuff turns into, well, who'd you kill? Like it's a pretty big switch up. Dina kind of gets that killing somebody stays with you as well. She apologizes to Ellie, like, oh, like I'm sorry, that must have like been tough. So it's almost like once you've gone brutal enough in this world, you're forever unchanged. We already know that Ellie, her loss of innocence is so accelerated compared, like based on what happened last season. Granted, she's 19, but still, most 19-year-olds these days are basically just kids, right?
Yes.
Did we get to the comment that she made? Yeah, Dina makes this interesting comment about how she went back to Jesse, but then like left him again or something.
Yeah.
So
Poor
it
Jesse.
seems like, yeah, right. Like it seems like both Jesse and Ellie have this like gloominess to them occasionally that she's pretty drawn to. But hey, some people just look for like emotional fixer uppers. Happens all the time. It is just something to watch out for. Like, is it totally, you know what I mean? Like, can we totally trust her at all times? I think we can, but like, I'm still a little eerie, a little suspicious.
And she did say, right, like she thinks Jesse is really sad deep inside. And it seems to
Yes.
like it seems to somehow attract her in a way. Um, yeah. So then the next day they wake up and they keep walking. They're getting close to Seattle, and they actually stumble upon the exact trail that from earlier those like religious fucking that religious cloak looking sect. They're walking and they see that all of these cloaked members got absolutely fucking butchered. And apparently the scene is so bad that Dina ends up puking. And when Ellie goes and checks out the scene, we see that they actually butchered the children as well. So that little redhead girl from earlier, she got fucking butchered. So very, very fucking savage stuff. And it's just like, oh shit, this shit is getting kind of real now. Clearly, there's a threat. The guess is the militia is the one behind this. So they got to stay safe and be careful. And as they they see Seattle in the distance, they then pull up to Seattle and they look and we see Seattle looks fucking sweet over the ledge. Meanwhile, we cut to the World Liberation Front and we see Manny. He's kind of keeping watch over the city. I think they're just doing routine like drilling, right, Damon? Like routine, just kind of marching throughout the city, just making sure everything is secure. So Manny's just kind of keeping lookout over that, and we see the rest of the militia, and they got fucking tanks, bro. They got tanks and like these armored vehicles. They have a shit ton of people. Like, I don't know, man. I feel like they could easily storm Jackson, Wyoming, if they wanted to. Like, they probably couldn't get. They definitely don't have enough fuel to get the tanks all the way over. But this is a well-armed fucking bunch, and that ends the episode. So, what did you think about all that?
Yeah, the crew, I tried to count and multiply based on the columns and rows of everybody. At least 150 people in that group in the credits, right? With the tanks.
Yeah. I'd say so. That's a good guess.
And that's only one patrol. So I would imagine hundreds and hundreds are in this crew. It seems like they are clearly the aggressors in the area because they've already taken out that other sect that wanted nothing to do with combat. They were trying to run away. Like I'm convinced the religious crew with the scars on their cheeks were trying to go to Canada or something.
Right, like they weren't
not,
heading towards Seattle, I don't think.
No, I don't think they were a threat or anything. I think these guys are super militant. This is where I think next episode we're gonna get Jeffrey Wright's character, which is gonna be.
Oh shit, he's in this?
I'm pretty sure he's the leader of, or maybe it's a flashback, but at some point he's the leader of one of these crews
Oh my
from the
god.
previews and the trailers. Yeah, so that's gonna take everything up to a whole new level. Now it just feels like we're playing the Ellie and Dina are going to go on recon and try to assess the weaknesses here and to figure out how they're going to get in. Manny looks like he's just being an asshole like usual. So he looks like he's probably a weak spot. I wouldn't be surprised if he gunked up like some patrol numbers and enabled Ellie and Dina to get in because he's too angsty to tell them who's between checkpoint 3 and 4 or something, you know? So hopefully that's a weakness that gets exposed because screw that guy.
Sniping Manny would be nice if you could just fucking
Yes.
catch him right now. You know what I mean? Like just
With
snipe
Seth's
him.
gun.
Right. Snipe the shit out of Manny right there, and then they got no watch. Like that kind of gives you a nice little advantage. But yeah, overall thoughts. I guess we'll get into thoughts about this episode. I mean, clearly Damon just a like a setup episode, right? This is this you're kind of transitioning the scene. You can't just deliver action again right after last episode. So now the setting is no longer going to be in Jackson. There's no longer going to be any safety, and now you're in this really hostile territory, and they are completely outgunned, completely outnumbered. Any final thoughts on the episode?
Good setup episode. I'm glad they let them cover a lot of ground in a limited time. I really didn't need 3 episodes of Ellie and Dina going from Wyoming to Seattle. So now we're on the doorstep, and it's only 7 episodes. So we're almost halfway down the season. So you got to keep that in perspective. But it feels like we're going to learn a lot more about these wolves as things continue.
Yep. All right. With that being said, appreciate everyone for tuning in. Appreciate you if you watched the recap. This one was a quick one. Obviously, not a lot happened in this episode, but we will be back with the episode